Okay, moving on. Dave Olson, that scalawag, writes, it's depressing enough that our moral and intellectual inferiors keep peddling the fool's gold of socialism despite a century of failure, but it's downright mortifying that so many people keep buying it. To make matters worse, our side, which should be fighting and trouncing these charlatans, seems to be suffering from the political equivalent of a combination of battered spouse and Stockholm syndromes. Is it time for young conservatives en masse to forego the more lucrative career paths and enter education, media, and government to reclaim them for liberty? Superb question. David, expect nothing less from you. There's a lot in there. First of all, people buy socialism because they've been told to buy it. As we've said many times, when you ask people about what they believe, and they'll say, we're socialists because we love people and we care and we don't want to see poor people and all the rest of it. But when you ask them how when you observe how they actually behave, they're rock rib capitalists. I've said the thing about the cell phone so many times it might as well be engraved in Mount Rushmore. But if you ask kids to give up their cell phones to redistribute their wealth to somebody else, all of a sudden they're rock rib capitalists. So they've never been told anything different. And the Turning Point USA videos I'm going to do, I was thinking about this because it's for young people, and it's like, I was thinking I might come out with my pants around my knees and a hoodie and, sunglasses and a lot of bling around my neck and lay down some fat beats. No, obviously the worst thing you can do when you're trying to talk to teenagers or college-age kids is to try to look like you're one and to try to look like you're talking down to them or talking to them as if they're not normal people. So that's not going to happen. However, I did give it a fair amount of thought before I called Charlie Kirk back. Well, I'll be working for Charlie someday. And I said, Charlie, here's how it looks to me. Because he wants to do videos, and he's doing great work to relight these fundamental ideas on college campuses. And I said, Charlie, I think this is my take on it. I don't think anybody really is against freedom. I know there's some people against freedom of speech, but you can sell freedom. Nobody wants to be told what to do, and nobody wants to be forced to pay for things that they don't want to buy. And so that's actually not the problem. Personally, I think the problem is that so many people consider themselves socialists because it's not even they don't even understand any history. It's because they don't understand economics. That's why. They don't understand economics. They don't understand the fundamentals of economics. Forget the nuances of it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to do 3 videos, and then we open it up to 4. And I said, I think the first video I'd like to do is on money. So everybody knows what money is, but none of them know what money really is. They know what money is, but they don't know why money is. And I'm not going to lay out all the scripts for all of these things here right now, but I will say this. I did have one of those electric shocks, one of those diamond bullets right between the eyes kind of things when I was thinking about this. And it's a very profound thought that I've never heard anyone talk about. I've heard people use the expression, but not in this way. And if you're talking about reaching college kids who have been heavily taught about socialism, and you start with money, the one thing I would start with is to say, money doesn't care who owns it. You get that? Money doesn't care who owns it. Money goes where it goes. And there are no dams or rivers or sluices or anything. There's no artificial channels to prevent money from where it should go. Well, there are some by the government, but as a general rule, if dollars are going to flow to Taylor Swift, and if dollars are going to flow to Beyonce, they're not going to stop flowing to Beyonce because she's black, and they're not going to pay less money to Beyonce because she's female or any of this other stuff. The money doesn't care who owns it. It is a liquid, and it goes where the demand is. It goes where people want it to go. Money goes where you want it to go, because that's what money is. People don't really understand it. John Condon just got it right on the neck, and it's exactly what I was going to say. I think your phrasing is better than mine, but this is precisely the point I was about to make. Money is something we give you in exchange for your work, but John Condon's, that's actually much better. He says money is liquid man hours. I am writing that down, pal. That is absolutely the way to express what I've been trying to say to these people. That is a superb phrase. What does that mean, money is liquid manpower? Well, what it means is if you mow the lawn for money and you do it for 4 months, you can't take the 4 months of lawn mowing someplace else and trade it for what you want. You can't do that. So you have to take money for it. And money is, in fact, it's liquid manpower. It's also frozen manpower. It takes work that you do during a period of time and gives you an item for trade that you can trade with for other people's work for what they produce. It's the old, I'm going to go to the spears and baskets thing, but basically you need money to buy a spear because you can't always bring the spears. You can't carry everything you need to trade with you in your pockets. If you go to a pharmacy and the pharmacist wants to put a new extension on his house, and you mow lawns for a living, and you go down there and buy some drugs from this guy, some prescription drugs, you can't bring a wing of a building there, and you can't do that. You have to bring something that represents what you've done. So yes, money is what you get in exchange for the work that you do. And money doesn't sit still, but money doesn't care. It doesn't care who owns it. It doesn't care, and it's never cared. Money goes where the demand is. And once you understand that, you begin to realize something, and that is that all of this talk about income inequality, if money goes where it wants to, if money goes where the demand is, and if money doesn't care who owns it, then you have to start asking yourself, hey, wait a minute, you know what correlates with income inequality really well? Is output inequality. It's a one-to-one correlation, virtually. There are some people with a lot of money who don't do any work. And there are some people that do an awful lot of smart, valuable work that don't get any money. But as a general rule, the more output you have, the more money you take in. The more money you take in, if you're smart, the more you get to keep and the more you get to amass. And when you get to a point where you have enough money, spare money, that you don't need every day to live on, then, if you've got a half a brain, and I don't, but many people do, then you will find that your money actually goes and works for you while you're sleeping. Your money is actually out there working for you while you're asleep. Because the money is water, but it's also valuable, and it has value, and you don't have to do anything other than to let it go where it wants to go. One of the most amazing books on economics I ever read is The Richest Man in Babylon. It's an old book. It's been around a long time, and it talks about a guy who starts as a slave, and then he buys himself his freedom, and then he becomes a merchant, I think, and then he becomes, practically becomes an emperor from nothing, from zero. And the fundamental premise that The Richest Man in Babylon uses is pretty simple. He says, for any $10 you make, or 10 florins, or 10 rupees, or 10 pounds, or 10 euros, or 10, ducats, or 10 whatever, 10 shiny rocks, or 10 seashells, whatever. He says, for every $10 that you bring in, spend 9. And that's really it. Because he says if you only spend 9 out of every 10, then that 1 out of 10 continues to grow. And when it gets big enough, then it will go out and work for you. You can lend it to somebody reliable, and they'll pay you it back, plus they'll give you more money. And when you got more money, now you can even go to bigger projects. And that's how it works. It's just absolutely, fantastic. Dave Big Booty there is something, Big Booty. That's really profound. And it's funny he mentioned brain surgeon, because it's a great example. Why does a brain surgeon get paid so much more than a janitor? Why? Well, it's not because the brain surgeon is a better person than a janitor, and it's not saying that his economic value is not the same as his spiritual value, his emotional value, or his human value. They've got nothing to do with each other. But we're talking about economics, so let's talk about economics. Why does a brain surgeon make so much more money than a janitor? And the answer is because the brain surgeon is much, much rarer. He's more rare. There are fewer of him. What that means is, in a country of 300 million people, there's probably 200 million, at least, probably 250 million people that could do the job of janitor. Now, that's not to take anything away from janitors. I have enormous respect for janitors. I'll tell you a quick little story about a janitor in a second. That means no disrespect for them at all, but the fact is 250 million people out of the 300 million people in this country could be a janitor. So there's a large group of janitors out there. There's not 250 million people could be the brain surgeon. I think even liberals can understand that, right? I think liberals can understand that it is harder to be a brain surgeon than it is to be a janitor. It takes more work, it takes more time, it takes more brains, more effort, and it takes a lot more education. Now, that's why a brain surgeon is worth more than a janitor, because there are millions of potential janitors, but there's probably a handful, tens of top brain surgeons, guys like Ben Carson level brain surgeons. They have talent. And if you have a problem with that, then you can ask yourself, well, okay, if you don't like the idea that a brain surgeon makes so much more money than a janitor, why are you okay with the fact that Beyonce makes $25 million and pays her dancers what? I don't know, a couple of grand a week maybe? Why is it okay that Taylor Swift makes more money than her backup singers? Why do you buy albums that say Taylor Swift? It's not just Taylor Swift. I mean, there's musicians on that album, and there's backup singers, and there's people that printed up the artwork. Why don't they all get an equal share of the money that Taylor Swift gets? Why does Taylor Swift get all the money and not the people and the recording engineers and the guys that made the plastic? Why don't they all get more or less the same amount of money as Taylor Swift does? Well, because every one of them is replaceable except for Taylor Swift. She's the only one that cannot be replaced. They are there to serve her. She is the product. And that's where the demand is. They don't pay Taylor Swift less because she's a woman, and they don't pay her more because she's a woman. They pay her exactly what she's worth, and we know this because money goes where it wants to, and money doesn't care who owns it. I think even liberals can start to get this in their head. I had a chance to play this on a real audience. I was talking about income inequality, and the guy was talking about the difference between a dean and a professor. And I said the dean can do things that the professor can't do, but the dean can do things that the professor does, but the professor can't do what the dean does. These were engineering students. That's an outrageous thing to say, he said. It's not outrageous at all. I said, if you're the dean of the engineering department, then you have to know engineering. It means you had to have been an engineering professor at some point in your life. Now, does that mean that he can do what the engineering professor does? Yes. Can the engineering professor do what the dean does? This kid says yes. I say no. The job of a dean is to go to cocktail parties and schmooze with people and shake hands and raise money. And I know engineers and I know engineering professors, and you do too, and they ain't very good at it. So there's very few engineers who are wonderful people, my favorite people. There are very few engineers that have the ability and the social skills to go out and do what the dean has to do. That's why he gets paid more money, because he's rarer. There are a lot of engineering professors, but there's very few of them that are people enough to be able to go out, raise money, be able to interact with the professors, untie all the emotional knots. And if you think it's tough with engineers, try it with theater people. It's scarcity. It's rarer. I told you a story. I'd tell you a story about a janitor real quick. I have not been a terribly neat guy my entire life, and I always beat myself up over it. I always say, I should clean up my apartment. I clean up the apartment. It's only 10 minutes if you keep on top of it. I hear this all the time. And for my entire life, I just kept saying, I got to, I'd just whipping myself for the fact that the apartment was always kind of a mess. And then suddenly dawned on me, there are people that will do this for you, and at a relatively reasonable fee. So I got a housekeeper come in 1 hour, probably 2 hours a week. And now the place is immaculate. And the laundry's done. I don't have to waste time doing laundry, which I hated. They do that too. And I pay her a large cash tip in addition to the money that she charged. But here's the true story. This woman was a young mother, Mexican woman, I think, a legal immigrant to this country. And she was working for a housekeeping service. And because she was working for this housekeeping service, I don't know what they were paying her, but it's got to be in the neighborhood of $7 to $10 an hour. I can't imagine it was much more than that. So she's an employee. She's just a wage slave like everybody else. And she goes out and works for other people and cleans their stuff and does all the stuff that liberals consider to be so degrading and so awful and so on. But this particular individual apparently didn't get the memo about how degrading and awful it was. She has many kids. I want to say 5, 6 kids. And she's really quite young. She may even be a grandmother. Her kids are going to college, and she's helping them go to college. So she works for let's just say it's $7 an hour or 10. Let's just say it's 10. She works for $10 an hour cleaning up after other people, and everybody thinks, oh my God, that's just so horrible and demeaning. Well, she didn't look at it that way. She quit the company. And that upset me quite a bit because we'd had a number of different housekeepers there from this company, and she was terrific. And I really didn't want somebody new I didn't want to have to explain everything again. My socks have to be folded in a very precise way before they're hung up on their little hangers, and I got to get things exactly right. Yeah. So she quit, and she's got a family, and she's not, at this point, rolling in cash. She doesn't have vast reserves. She doesn't get to go paint for 6 months or go back to school. She's got to make some money because she's got a family to feed. But she quits the job. And when I found out that she had left, I said, how can we get a hold of her? And the company wouldn't give me her number, obviously, and I can understand that. But fortunately for me, she was gone for about 3 or 4 weeks. She mailed me a letter to my home address, which is not my business address. I get all my mail at my business address, so I check my home address probably once a month, genuinely. And I see a letter in there that was 3 weeks old from her. And it said, Dear Bill, I just wanted to let you know I've left this company and I've started my own company. I really enjoyed, doing your apartment for you. You're very generous and a really nice guy. And if you'd like for me to come back and do this, I'm starting my own company. I said, sign me up. So I called her immediately, and she went through the process of getting incorporated, and that took a while, and we had to do our billing, and we had to, I'm a target. I can't go hire illegal immigrants. It's wrong, and it's illegal. And so she had to get a corporation. We had to figure out all this stuff, get all this stuff straight, and she wasn't very good at that. I'm not very good at it either, but she got it done. And then now she's got this company, and she's working. She's still cleaning apartments. A couple of months ago, she said that she had 2 other people working for her now because she's got more work than she could do. And about 2 weeks ago, she said, I just want to let you know the business is doing really well. We also provide handyman service. So if you ever need anything mounted on the wall, or if you need shelves put in, or somebody to mount a TV on the wall, we do that. And we also do like big industrial stuff. If you're about to leave an apartment and you don't want to clean the apartment up, if you want to pack your stuff and not forfeit your security deposit, we do that. We do all kinds of things. And I said, Eileen, you're everything that I believe in. You're everything I believe in. You're the proof of everything that I believe in. And I was so struck by this. She's going to be a millionaire. She is. She's got people out there who are working very hard, and she's working very hard too, like most entrepreneurs. This is my company. You may have noticed the staff left at 6:30. It's 7:40. I'm still here. But she is friendly, modest. She's efficient. She's honest. Returned money that was lost someplace back somewhere. Many cases where she just presented something that she had no, I didn't even know it was gone, and she presented it and asked. It's just a terrific person. That is being there's uptake of that attitude into her little company, and then it's not so little anymore, and then the next thing you know, it's a big company, and then the next thing you know, we're going to open up one of these in San Francisco, and then we're going to open up one in Chicago, and then she's going to be the company that she used to work for, and she's going to make millions of dollars. I have no doubt about it whatsoever, because she didn't look at it as degrading, and she didn't look at it as a dead-end job, and she didn't look at it as something that was, the end of the line or the bottom of the barrel. She never behaved that way. She just was friendly, enthusiastic, did terrific work. She did great work. And from the beginning, I left her a large cash tip because I always felt, I felt that same kind of thing. This poor woman is struggling and so on. But she doesn't need that anymore. She's going to keep getting it because she's one of my favorite people. But this is exactly right. Legal immigrant to the United States, working mom, working for the man, for the company, and she's making $7 an hour and has the guts to quit and has the hard work and the initiative to go after all of her former clients and get hired and then get doing again and then spend more hours. And she doesn't know if she's going to make this thing work or not. And next thing you know, she's hired her friends or relatives or something because they've got more business they can handle. Then they hire their uncle or their cousin or their nephew because now we can do handyman work. And the next thing you know, this hardworking, smart, brave, courageous, wonderful woman is feeding, I don't know, right now she's probably feeding seven or eight people are getting paychecks from her, and it's going to be 50, and then it's going to be 5,000. You can say that it's not fair because other people don't have that initiative, but that is not something that can be corrected out of society. All you can do, if the fact that most janitors don't take that risk, and you're saying that's not fair, then all you can do is cripple the ones that do take the risk. Because if they're not going to do it, if they can do it, if there's nothing stopping them from doing it, rather than their own internal insecurities or laziness or whatever, or just lack of resources in terms of mental resources. They don't know how to get incorporated. They've never seen anybody run a business. But the fact is that the money didn't care who owned it, and the money didn't care whether it went through her old company or which she had nothing to do with, or whether it goes through the new company which she owns. Money doesn't care. I'm paying the same amount of money to get my apartment cleaned up every week and have my laundry done. The pay hasn't changed at all. The money is still the same amount of money, and the money goes every week to do the same thing, which is to get my apartment clean. But now the money doesn't go to that old company. Now the money goes to the new company. And it goes to the new company because the excellence of the product that she put out made me go with her. I thought she was the product. I had a bunch of other people come in. They just weren't as good. So it can happen. And the thing I like about this is, when you talk about a maid or a housekeeper, it's like a janitor. It is, in fact, the bottom of the economic barrel. But I've said this before. There's the guy who does the office cleanup here gets here at 7 o'clock in the morning. He runs the parking concession for our building. I mean, he's in that little booth, and it's 106 degrees out there, 110 degrees sometimes, and he is in that booth, and he's waving to people when they come in, and he's collecting the checks for the parking concession, and he's issuing the cards, and he's assigning the parking spaces, and he's taking care of people that are here by the hour, and he works from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the evening, and then I guess he goes and gets some dinner, but I see him here at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he is cleaning the toilets, and he's cleaning the bathrooms, he's vacuuming this office at midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3. He's the daytime job is he runs the parking concession. That is a full-time job. And then he comes in, he cleans up, and he cleans urinals and toilets. And he is a hard-working individual, and I admire that man so much. I admire him so much. I admire him far more than the college professors I had. I admire him far more than just about anybody I know. It's magnificent what he's doing, and he's proving that it can be done. And I don't know what he's doing it for, but if he's doing it to put his kids through college, or if he's doing it to buy a big house, or if he's doing it because he wants a boat, or I don't care. I'm happy and proud to support somebody like that. I'm enthusiastic about it. And once I realized he was coming in late at night, we started to be great friends, because at first I thought he was kind of surly. It's not like he was surly exactly. I was probably surly, but it's, I want to, and all the rigmarole with the parking. I saw him here time and time again, 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning, 2. He's here working, building his dream, as John Condon said. Hey, another home run there, John. Yeah, he's building his dream. And you know how I know that he's working at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning? Because I'm working at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's why. It's just the two of us. Honest to God, we're the only two people in the building. And this man, who's lovely man, I think he's also from Mexico. He's certainly Latino. He and I have more in common than I have with virtually all the white people I know, where it counts, It's not about the skin color. It's not about that at all. He doesn't get more money for being Latino. He doesn't get less. The money goes where the money wants to go. The money goes where it's needed, and the money doesn't care. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do the first one on. I'll do the second one on socialism, third one on capitalism, and the fourth one on corporations, which I think I might just save for next week, because corporations have been portrayed as so evil and just so awful, and these people do not understand that the school that they go to is a corporation, and the companies that they use to write their screeds about how bad corporations are corporations. They sit there and in Starbucks, which is a corporation, and they get on their iPhones, which is a corporation, and then they tweet things out on Twitter, which is a corporation, using AT&T carrier signals or whatever, which is a corporation, to complain about how bad corporations are, and they don't know any better. They're idiot professors who are too stupid and too lazy to go make it on their own, and bitterly resentful, by the way, of the fact that they know all the nuances of Chaucer, and yet that knuckle-dragging Texan down the street has got a car lot and he's worth $50 million, and here I am, a genius in Italian Renaissance poetry, and I'm making $18,000 a year. He's providing more service than you are. He's providing more service than you are. It doesn't mean he's a better person than you. It doesn't mean that he has any legal opportunities than you. He should have exact same chances, should stand exactly the same before the law, and stand exactly the same in an ATM line. However, the guy that's selling cars is providing more service to other people than you are, Mr. University professor. And do you know how we know this? The reason we know that he's providing more service is because he's got more money than you do. And he didn't get more money than you'd have because the wealth fairy tapped him at night and didn't tap you. He has more money than you do because he's working hard, and you're working hard too. But what he's providing is of more value to more people than what you provide. You don't have to like it. It's what it is. I have relatively little doubt that if I decided that my goal was to make as much money as I could certainly find a way to make more of it than being an internet pundit. But that's not my primary motivation. My motivation is to save this country, and I'm good at this. I like telling stories, and I'm proud of the work I do. And this is not a high income job for me, and it could be someplace else, but this is where I want to be. I make that sacrifice for the income because I'd rather be doing. I haven't been to work in 10 years. I haven't had to go to work in 10 years, and I'm here working all the time. So there's a lot to say about this, but I was talking with Charlie about this, and I said, we got to make Uber. It's all got to be about Uber. They understand Uber so well, and they love Uber. And Uber was just valued at, I don't know, was it $46 billion or $60 billion was the most recent appraisal for Uber. And if you want proof that wealth can be created out of thin air, Uber's worth $60,000 million. And what is Uber? It's an idea. It's an idea. Uber is an idea. It genuinely, truly is. You have a little bit of resources necessary to make the app, and somebody obviously had to make the phone, but that's not your problem. It's an app. It's an idea. The genius of Uber, the genius of it, was not that they said, hey, you know what, taxis are really overpriced, and they're rude, and they're slow, and they take a long time. We could outcompete the personal transportation market. Therefore, let's go buy 400,000 cars and hire 400,000 drivers, and we'll whip taxis' butts because we can get them there faster. That would have been a good idea, but that's not why Uber is Uber. The genius of Uber is that Uber said there are people that need rides, and there are people that have cars and time. And if we put these two things together, well, I bet that would work. You can't do that in an industrial era economy. You can't do that before this cell phone, before the smartphone. But we have the smartphone, and so you can. And now Uber doesn't just drive people around. If you haven't used Uber, you may know that Uber X is you just get a regular sedan, a Prius, or a Toyota or whatever. But you can order Uber Black, which is a black limousine type car. It's a Lincoln Town Car or a Cadillac to go to events. You can order Uber SUVs if you got a lot of stuff to move. And now Uber is doing things like couriers, and to the undying genius of the people behind this, Uber now delivers food. The restaurant across the street from me, it's actually quite a good restaurant, it really truly is partnered with Uber. And that means that if I use my little Uber food app, it will show me what restaurants are in the area. And the area may be 5, 10, 20 miles from here. I'm sure I can set the area. And so if I want some food delivered because I'm too lazy or I'm too tired or I'm too sick to leave the house, then I can hit this button and they will prepare me my, gnocchi with chicken and sun-dried tomatoes, and then Uber will go by and pick it up, and they will deliver it to me, and the cost for the food is about the same as it used to be, and the delivery price is shockingly low. It's less than $10, I think. So who's losing here? The restaurants are getting business. that they never would have had because they don't have to walk in the door. People went to the restaurants once. There's good food. Just give me some. It's not, your choices are not Domino's anymore. Domino's is very good, by the way. They've really, really gotten good pizza going. So, yeah. So this is how you generate wealth out of nothing. Ohio Coasty says, create Uber for air travel. I believe there is already an Uber helicopter service that they can provide helicopter service. And once they figure out how to do fractional jets, there's a couple of companies out there trying to do that. The problem with jets, private jets is you don't have quite the market for that. But Uber is genius, and so is Airbnb. And it's an idea that one or two people had, and now it's worth $60,000 million. And we know it's worth that, young ladies and gentlemen, because you use it every day, right? Every single day you take a ride in an Uber, and it just gets billed to your card or your parents' card. So we know it's worth a lot of money because it's taken in a lot of money. Where did that money come from? Where did the $60,000 million that Uber is worth come from? It came out of thin air. It wasn't there before. Well, where did it come from? It comes from people who have daytime jobs who are willing to work nighttime jobs for Uber and do extra work so they can get extra reward. Because here, your reward is tied into your work. We talked about that back in capitalism, remember? And off you go, So once they understand the economics, I think you've pretty much got them. And by the way, I'm one of those conservatives. You hear a lot of people say I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal. I don't know if I would call myself socially liberal just because it's such a filthy expression now. But generally speaking, yeah, when I think about the conservative principles I believe in, it's get the government out of the way, let people alone, let them do their jobs, let them start companies like maid services or transportation services. And Uber's an especially good example for young people because you can tell them true stories about Uber. Two of them are, I talked to a guy who was, I think that he said he was the fifth or sixth Uber driver either in Los Angeles or California. He got in early before there were enough people of critical mass to make this thing really go. So he was in early. And he said, this was several years ago, he said, because several years ago you used to be able to be dropped off at the airport by Uber, but they couldn't pick you up. They were not allowed to come by and pick you up on the curb. And that's a real problem because people would take an Uber to the airport, as I would, and then you'd have to get out of the airport. And so I would take a shuttle bus to a hotel that I'd spent some money on before, and I kind of justified it by saying, well, I pay them for parking sometimes, and I've put people there, but basically I'm just stealing their ride, and so that's a real problem. So anyway, prior to getting the ability to pick them up, this Uber driver said that a few years ago, the LAX, whatever the airport commission is, said, tell you what, Uber, here's the deal. We will let you pick up people at LAX, but you'll have to add $10 to the fare, and the $10 comes to us, the government, the regulating authority. And Uber said, no, I don't think so. And now you get an interesting thing with young people because you can say, listen, let's just think about this for a second. Forget about just the airport. What if every single time you got in an Uber, they added $5 to the bill that didn't go to the driver, comes out of your pocket, doesn't go to the driver, it goes to somebody in Washington or Sacramento? What did they have to do with this transaction? If it's a $6 ride and there's a $5 tax or fee involved, now you're paying $11. What did that person do in order to get that big part of the money? And then you sit and wait for them to answer because there is no answer. They didn't do anything. That's why they hate Uber, which is why they blocked Uber from picking people up at the airport until finally the public demand was so high that they had to relent. And now at LAX, Uber will pick you up on the departures level at certain locations. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me. Every terminal's got a little pole outside, and it's like area F, and this is where the peer-to-peer cars pick you up. Works like a charm. It takes 4 minutes instead of half an hour and $65 and all the rest of it. It's brilliant. It's genius. So we gotta use the things that they use to show them that corporations are actually good. It's just a group of people trying to accomplish an aim, an aim, not a name, an aim, and provide a service that wasn't there before for less money, and the money will go where it wants to go because money doesn't care who owns it. Let's see.